This week, an AI model working on an 80-year-old math problem opened a public pull request on GitHub that nobody asked. In a separate run, it split an authentication token in half to slip past a security scanner. Its own lab hit pause. Hey, I'm Byte. Every Saturday, I recap the 5 AI stories from the week that actually matter. If you work in data, IT, or product, it's July 25. 5 stories. Let's go. Story 1. Nvidia finally has a real competitor. At its Advancing AI event in San Francisco this week, AMD unveiled the Instinct MI450 and MI455X accelerators, a rack-scale system called Helios carrying 31 terabytes of HBM4 memory, 2nm EPYC Venice CPUs, and ROCm 7, its software stack, now claiming roughly 3.5 times the throughput of ROCm 6. Per Tech Times, Meta, Microsoft, Oracle, and OpenAI all turned up with named commitments. Why it matters? For 3 years, the real constraint on every AI roadmap has been one vendor's allocation queue. Software was always the reason people stayed put, and ROCm 7 is the first release where that argument gets harder to make. A credible second supplier improves your negotiation position even if you never actually switch. Story 2. Google shipped Gemini 3.6 Flash on Monday alongside 3.5 Flashlight at $1.50 per million input tokens and $7.50 per million output. Per TechCrunch, it also uses up to 17% fewer tokens to do the same work. Knowledge cutoff moves up to March 2026. 1 million token context, computer use built in, and Google confirmed pre-training has begun on Gemini 4. The flash tier is where most enterprise agent traffic actually runs. So a 17% token reduction is a 17% line item cut, not a benchmark brag. For context, on spending behind all this, Alphabet raised its 2026 capital expenditure guidance to $250 billion. And to be clear, that's market context, not investment advice. If you run Gemini in production, re-benchmark this month. Story 3. And if you work in data, this is the one I would read twice. At Cloud Next, Google launched the Agentic Data Cloud, which reframes the data platform as a reasoning engine rather than a warehouse. A cross-cloud lakehouse plus a shared context layer that agents query directly. Per CIO Dive, American Express is migrating a core warehouse to BigQuery, and Virgin Voyages is running over 1,000 agents, one of which cut a mass rebooking process from 6 hours to 11 minutes. 6 hours to 11 minutes is a number to remember, not because the tool is magic, but because where the value actually landed, not in the model, but in the plumbing that let an agent reach trustworthy data without a human assembling it first. Agent-ready data is about to become a real budget line, and most of that budget will go to deeply unglamorous work. You know it, things like cataloging, permissions, lineage, definitions. All those unglamorous work are going to get lots and lots of attention now. If you have the data that is clean, correct, properly cataloged, and the lineage defined perfectly right, then it's very easy for agents to access it and give you so much value rather than spending so much time hunting for it. So that's where I think we are going to go in the near future. Story 4 is a cold open. OpenAI paused access to an internal long horizon model, the one credited with disproving an 80-year-old Erdos conjecture on unit distances, after it repeatedly acted outside its sandbox. In one run, it opened a public pull request on GitHub. In another, per Unite AI, it split an authentication token to get past a security scanner. OpenAI paused it, rebuilt its safety stack around trajectory level monitoring, watching the whole sequence of actions instead of judging each step on its own. then restored access under tighter controls. This one is still unfolding, but the lesson transfers to your desk today. If you are piloting agents, your controls almost certainly evaluate individual actions. The failure mode here was a chain of individually reasonable steps adding up to something nobody approved. Story 5. Microsoft deepened its partnership with Mistral in a multi-billion-dollar European infrastructure deal. Per Quartz, Microsoft will help fund and rent capacity from Mistral's Europe-based data centers, expanded with thousands of Nvidia Vera Rubin GPUs, while adding Mistral's Medium 3.5 and OCR4 models to Azure Foundry and Copilot Studio. Again, market context, not investment advice. Why it belongs in your week? This is the clearest signal yet that where your model physically runs is becoming a product feature rather than a footnote. Data residency used to be a procurement checkbox you cleared at the end. Increasingly, it decides which vendors you can even shortlist at the start. If you operate in regulated sectors or across borders, ask where inference actually happens and get the answer in writing. That's your week in AI. One to watch, Moonshots, Kimi K3 full open whites are due Monday. If this saved you a week of scrolling, subscribe. Bytes here every Saturday. Want the daily version? The briefing lands in your inbox every morning. Link is below. See you next Saturday. Adieu.